Hello everyone, my name is Chandler Luebbert with Black Diamond Mergers and Acquisitions, and this is my first time doing one of these videos, so I hope you enjoy it and I hope you find it interesting. So today I want to talk about something that's probably on the front of everyone's mind, especially on the minds of all the small business owners out there. And I want to talk about really the unprecedented inflation we're experiencing today and its effects on our economy and to our small businesses. So the three key main things I want to focus on are, how we got into this financial situation, a current assessment of where we're at as a country, and how individuals and small business owners can kind of help combat these high prices we're all experiencing. So starting out, how we got here. So the inflation we're experiencing today comes from multiple previous factors. COVID-19 was obviously the genesis of everything, but the way in which we responded played an even greater role. And as we all remember, in their initial reaction to COVID, the Fed lowered interest rates to 0.05%, making cash more easily accessible for borrowers. On top of that, we saw multiple rounds of stimulus being deployed into our economy. So you have the lowering of interest rates and a rapid deployment of cash, really clearing the runway for inflation to take off. At the same time that the rates were being lowered and cash was being deployed, the majority of our country was actually out of work and forced to go into a lockdown. So this left a shortage of workers, at our ports and within our trucking and transportation companies, which ultimately caused a bottleneck in our national supply chain. So if you really think about it, while our nation and the rest of the world were on lockdown, we were still receiving money through swaths of stimulus relief funds. And since no one could leave their residence, the demand for goods and services skyrocketed and people began buying their products online. But since our country and the world were on lockdown, there was no one at the ports to unload or to package these goods, and there was no one at the trucking or transportation companies to transport the goods throughout the nation. So it really was kind of a trifecta of three things that led to inflation. It was swaths of stimulus being deployed, being under lockdown, and then additionally supply chain bottlenecks. So additionally, on top of all the multiple rounds of stimulus already deployed into our economy, we passed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, which only further increased our spending deficit. So if we take a step back and we do a current assessment of where we're at today as a country, it's no joke to say that we're experiencing an inflationary period unlike ever before. The CPI rate for the month of April was actually 8.5%, which is a 4-decade high. And this has led to a number of small business owners and everyday individuals cutting back their spending and looking for other cost-saving solutions. What's interesting, though, is that the United States core PCE, or personal consumption expenditures, continues to rise, which tells us that consumers are still spending regardless of inflation. So the thing to point out is that PCE measures consumer expenditures excluding energy and food. So even though gas and food prices are going through the roof, the average consumer is still making other expenditures at an increasing rate. So to kind of bottom line that, so even though we're in the midst of a historical inflationary rally, the average consumer is still spending regardless of high costs. Now brings me to my third point, and it's how do we combat this inflation, or how do we alleviate some of the pressures we're feeling on that? So with all this being said, there are a few ways in which people are combating these prices. For the average individual, eating out less and cooking more at home seems to be the most popular solution. We're also seeing more people get back to the carpooling days. The whole "I'll take if you pick up" thing is in full effect. And for business owners, it gets a bit more tricky. So 75% of all business owners have experienced these rising costs on their goods, yet only 40% have actually increased their prices to offset these costs. Some ways for these business owners to combat these higher costs would be to pass the burden on to the consumer, right? Just raise your prices in the store. Another way would be to renegotiate your deals with your suppliers, or look for new suppliers that can get you your stuff cheaper. And the last thing we can do is just to save our money. Save for the next rainy day that comes along. And now we understand that these circumstances are less than ideal, but the bottom line is that we're all experiencing these higher costs together, and we're all going to get through it together. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson.